right. Sounds right. Sounds right. Sounds right.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Devontae Colonel, and welcome to another late night live stream where we're pulling off day number 19 of 30 days streaming every single day in the month of June. No days missed, maybe some errors, but even on those days with errors, there is a piece that was released that you will be directed to. On this episode, we are going to be continuing the series that is something that I think that every man finds important, and that is what is important for attraction. Every man asks this question when you're considering that beautiful woman that you want to get, that girl that you want to approach. And you sometimes have to wonder and ask yourself, what is it exactly that I need to make sure that I have on point before I just make my approach and try to have all together? Now, in the first three parts, we've covered things such as confidence, we've covered ambition, and we've covered community. Now, make sure to go back and to watch all of those parts before you get to this one here, because those three parts set up something very important. They set up the basis for what it is important to have as a man, and they give you the internal assets that you need in order to come off attractive. It gives you some extra depth to have those three things of confidence, ambition, and community. And I say that it's important because today's pillar is going to be something that is very superficial, and that is the physical attractiveness that you cannot get away from, no matter how confident or ambitious or how much community you have. There is a certain level of physical attractiveness that must be in play in order for any given woman to be able to find you attractive. Now, The attractiveness that is needed is not going to be the same for every woman, of course, but there is at least a bare minimum. However, on this episode, we're going to look at all of the different ways that people can find people attractive, right? So we know that physical attractiveness plays a significant role in human attraction. And while it's often said that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, there are certain universal traits that are widely recognized as attractive across cultures. Now, we're going to be delving into why physical attractiveness is such an important element of attraction and exploring things like evolutionary theories, psychological perspectives, cultural influence. That's major, and a lot of people don't realize that, and they get discouraged not realizing that the culture of women that they're going after is just wrong for them, wrong for them. And we're going to discuss the impact of social media and norms. Now, we're also going to discuss how physical attractiveness intersects with other factors such as personality, intelligence, and social status, and how it influences romantic partnerships and social interactions. So I want to go ahead and lay out for you guys the chapters of what exactly we'll be covering here. So I have some visual aids here. So the first part of what we'll be covering will be this here. Chapter 1 will cover evolutionary perspectives on physical attractiveness. So all of these 3 bullet points is what we'll run through. The role of physical attractiveness in evolution, so the concepts of sexual selection, physical traits that indicate health and fertility, symmetry in its role in attractiveness, reproductive fitness and physical traits, indicators of good genes, youth and fertility in women, strength and dominance in men, universal standards of beauty, which will include cross-cultural studies on attractiveness, the golden ratio and facial symmetry, body shape preferences, waist to hip ratio in women, and shoulder to waist ratio in men. That's the first chapter that we'll be covering. Now, I'm not going to give an exhaustive list of everything. I will describe the chapter names, but we're not going to go through all of the points because we're going to discuss all the points throughout this entire presentation. So chapter 2 is going to be psychological perspectives and physical attractiveness. And then number 3 will be cultural influences and physical attractiveness. Number 4 will be the interplay of physical attractiveness with other factors. Number 5 will be here, physical attractiveness in romantic relationships. And number 6 will be the social impact of physical attractiveness. Lastly, balancing physical attractiveness and inner qualities. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into all of these here. So first up, like I said, we have chapter 1, which is going to be evolutionary perspectives and on physical attractiveness. So this is going to discuss the concept of sexual selection. Now, let me go ahead and go down here onto this piece here. So when it comes to chapter 1 of evolutionary perspectives on physical attractiveness, here is where we begin. Physical attractiveness has deep roots in our evolutionary past. The concept of sexual selection, introduced by Charles Darwin, explains how certain characteristics, traits, became prevalent in a population because they are deemed attractive by the opposite sex. These traits often signal health, fertility, and good genes, which are crucial for the survival and reproduction of the species. For instance, facial symmetry is widely regarded as a universal marker of attractiveness. Symmetrical faces are perceived as more attractive because symmetry is often associated with genetic health and developmental stability. Studies have shown that symmetrical faces are related as more attractive across different cultures, suggesting that our preference for symmetry is deeply ingrained in our biology. This is an important thing to note because I think that a lot of people will often find themselves saying, okay, that's a standard for this culture of America or that culture of Europe. However, this is something that you can find across different cultures all over the world. Now, when it comes to reproductive fitness and physical traits that indicate reproductive fitness play a significant role in attraction. For women, traits such as clear skin, lustrous hair, and youthful appearance signal fertility and health. These traits are often linked to higher levels of estrogen, and you consider if you go to somewhere like a gym or to a mall, the girls that have the hair with the sheen to it, that shine to it, the skin that is a perfect smooth skin to it, and typically somewhere between that 24 to 29 range, that age where the most youthful, mature look is there, that is typically what most men will find as most attractive. So these traits are often linked with higher levels of estrogen, which is associated with reproductive health. Men, on the other hand, are often attracted to women with a waist to hip ratio of around 0.7, as it is seen as a marker of fertility and good health. We know that fertility is important when it comes down to having children. That's why these things can be a strong sign to men. Now, in men, physical traits such as muscularity, height, and facial structure, i.e., a strong jawline, signal strength, dominance, and good genes. These traits are often associated with higher levels of testosterone, which is linked to physical fitness and reproductive capability. Another thing that is important to note is that in today's age, we can see testosterone levels dropping. And at the same time, we can notice that there are more lonely men today and less men getting in relationships than at any point previous in history, regardless of the fact that there is more access theoretically to women now more than ever. Correlative, you be the judge of it. Women tend to prefer men who exhibit these traits, especially during their fertile phase, as they indicate the ability to provide and protect. Now, a Bible verse that says something similar here. We're going to touch on evolutionary as well as some of the other ways, and we're always going to have a little Bible verse that has something to say about this. So 1 Samuel 16:7 says, "But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height." Look at that. We just talked about all these things involving appearance and height. The Bible says, "I have rejected him." The Lord does not look at these things that people look at. Even the Bible acknowledges that we as people are going to look at things such as the hair, such as the skin, such as the height, the jawline, the muscularity. The Bible says, don't look at these things in the same way that people do. People look at the outward appearance. This is from the Bible. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. So if you're a person who is truly intent on trying to be attractive, understand that the Bible understands what route this leads down. And I'm going to give you guys the approaches from the biblical route and from the worldly route and let you be the judge of which way you want to go. But the Bible gives you a warning against this. Now, here are some universal standards of beauty, right? Because as I mentioned before, people will say in this country or at this time period, certain things were attractive. But here's the truth. And it is that despite cultural differences, there are certain standards of beauty that are universally recognized. Facial symmetry, as I said. Now, studies have shown that people from diverse cultures tend to agree on what constitutes an attractive face. This goes back again to clear skin, symmetry, average facial features, or that means features that are not too exaggerated or deviant. And that will often get a person to be seen as attractive across different societies. Now, this means things like eyes being evenly spaced, being of a typical size. It means hair being of a natural similarness all around, altogether. The golden ratio, a mathematical ratio of, get this now, 1.618 to 1 is often found in nature, and it is believed to be aesthetically pleasing. This ratio is present in various aspects of the human body, including the face, and it's thought to contribute to our perception of beauty. For example, the proportion of the length and width of a face that adheres to the golden ratio is often considered more attractive. Think about that person that you see where the chin juts out too much or the nose. This person is outside of the golden ratio, and that's probably why you look at them and you probably think, right? Let's be honest now. So understand that what you're doing is subconsciously you are applying the golden ratio against that person, and it doesn't match up. Meanwhile, when you see someone who does adhere to the golden ratio, your brain more so goes, and that's why you may find them attractive. Now, Genesis 1:27 says, "So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them." This verse tells us that regardless of any ratio, God made us all in his image, despite what may be perfectly proportioned or what may not be. This is something that you can take comfort in if you're a follower of the Bible, if you are looking at a person who also respects the idea of everyone being made in God's image. Now, because of the way that we live, people will have biases. And if you are outside of that golden ratio, despite being made in God's image, people may still love you as a human, but not be attracted to you as a partner. Chapter 2 that we're going to talk about now goes into some concepts that are very relatable. This is covering psychological perspectives on physical attractiveness. This will include things like the halo effect, self-esteem and confidence, and the matching hypothesis. So this is going to be interesting, and this is something that you'll probably be able to notice that you yourself have probably fallen into. I know I certainly have. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So the halo effect is a cognitive bias where our overall impression of a person influences how we perceive their other traits. When it comes to physical attractiveness, the halo effect means that attractive people are often perceived as more intelligent, competent, and socially skilled. Now, this bias can have significant implications in various contexts like jobs, interviews, social interactions, and even certain types of outcomes in court systems. We know what we're talking about here. Studies have shown that physically attractive individuals are more likely to be hired, receive higher salaries, and perceived as more credible and persuasive. The halo effect extends to academic settings as well, where attractive students are often judged as more capable and receive higher evaluations from teachers. This is a natural thing that we do, guys. This is not something that people sit and say, I want to treat the attractive person better. It's just something we naturally fall into. Now, here's a quote from Dorothy Parker, who said, "Beauty is only skin deep, but ugly goes clean to the bone." We may all know this. We know the idea of the mean girl. Yet many of us cannot help if we see someone attractive, we will notice it and we will treat them differently based on that, versus if we see someone who is either average or below a standard of attractiveness, we may do something that in some way speaks more to their personality or try to encourage them in a way that is not physical appearance based. We all know when we see someone beautiful, we say, wow, you're so pretty. You're so gorgeous. You're so handsome. You're so strong looking. You have such, we highlight people's attractive traits when they have an attractive trait. And if we don't, we highlight their personality traits. It's just a thing that people do. Nothing wrong with either or, but it is a thing that people do because even if done simply as a matter of fact, we naturally acknowledge attractive features. Now, when it comes to something like self-esteem and confidence, physical attractiveness can have a profound impact on an individual's self-esteem and confidence. We all know this. People who perceive themselves as attractive are more likely to have higher self-esteem and exhibit greater confidence in social situations. The confidence can, in turn, enhance their attractiveness. See our video part 1 on confidence, and this can create a positive feedback loop. Conversely, individuals who do not perceive themselves as attractive may struggle with low self-esteem and social anxiety. The pressure to conform to societal beauty standards can exacerbate these feelings, and it can lead to negative psychological outcomes. And it is important to recognize the impact of physical appearance on self-esteem and to promote a more understood and understanding culture and definition of beauty. So this is confidence coming in so necessarily here. Many people can think of a person who was maybe not the most attractive, but they were confident. And because they were so confident, it made them more attractive. And this is outside of what most people maybe would have seen as fully attractive. So let's go ahead and look at a Bible verse that has something to say about this. This will be Proverbs 31:30, which says, "Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised." I think a lot of guys have ideas of what the great ideal looking woman is, but this Bible verse makes it clear that a woman who fears the Lord is the one that we should be going after if you're going to subscribe to a biblical standard. Now, once that person is fearful of the Lord. Now it's a matter of getting to a certain level of attraction that you can be happy with. Let's go ahead and talk about the matching hypothesis, because I've been going to it and speaking towards it a bit, but let's look at what it's actually called, because it is a thing. I'm not just speaking this. This is something that is actually studied. The matching hypothesis suggests that people tend to form stronger relationships with others who are similar in terms of physical attractiveness. This phenomenon is observed in both romantic relationships and friendships. And studies have found that couples who are matched in attractiveness levels, they tend to have more stable and satisfying relationships. We've all seen the people who, the guy with the woman, how did this guy get that girl? And there's typically a major competency that the man has to have. You don't really see a guy or a woman with a man and they say, how did that woman get that man? Because typically there is a certain level of attraction for the woman to man that looks at certain traits or certain accomplishments. Now, when it comes to the matching hypothesis, this can be explained by several factors. This is including the desire to avoid rejection and the tendency to seek validation from others. By choosing partners who are similar in attractiveness, people can increase the likelihood of mutual attraction and relationship success. Again, going back to the idea that most people can observe a person's attractiveness and put them somewhere on a scale. And then when they see people who are perceived, even subconsciously, at a similar place on that scale, can either know that someone would be good for another person or recommend someone, or know who they should perhaps put time and effort into pursuing or not pursuing based off of this inherent understanding of their placement. A Bible verse that has something to say on this. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10 says, "Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up." I love this because it encourages people to be there for each other and to travel as units of people instead of just alone. And so when we combine this Bible verse with the idea of what we're talking about with the matching hypothesis, putting yourself together with people who are of a similar attractive stature, or people who are perhaps slightly more attractive, in order for you to, as it says here, when one falls down, maybe when one is not doing what they need to take care of themselves physically, the other person who is can motivate that person to elevate what they're doing in order to become more attractive. So let's go ahead and look at chapter 3 of this presentation here. This is going to talk about cultural influences on attractiveness. And within this is going to talk about historical standards of beauties, cultural versions or cultural variations in attractiveness, and the media and beauty ideals. This is a major talking point that is vastly under, like, it's below an average level of understanding. I myself failed with this, but before I get into that story, let's go ahead and talk about some historical standards of beauty. So beauty standards are not something that have been constant, right? Beauty standards have evolved significantly over time, and they've been influenced by historical events. Oh, sorry about that. and they've been influenced by historical events, societal changes, and cultural shifts. In ancient civilizations such as Egypt and Greece, beauty was often associated with divine qualities and physical perfection. Statues and artwork from these periods reflect the ideals of symmetry, proportion, and balance. Now, during the Renaissance, the ideal of beauty shifted towards fuller figures and pale skin, as these traits were associated with wealth and nobility. In contrast, the Victorian era emphasized modesty and delicate features, with women often striving to achieve a petite and fragile appearance. Now, Song of Solomon, chapter 4, verse 7 says, "You are altogether beautiful, my darling. There is no flaw in you." So we can see here how the standards changed based off the culture and the era here. The Bible tells you that regardless of what era it is, you are beautiful all together. This is why it's important person that's going to look to be attractive. It's to learn about what is your element of attraction and to lean into that, because anything that you're getting guidance from based on a modern standard is subject to shift. Let's go ahead and talk about the cultural variations in attractiveness. Different cultures have their own unique standards of beauty, and these are shaped by traditions, values, and environmental factors. So, for example, in some African cultures, fuller figures are considered more attractive as they're signs of health and fertility and prosperity. And in contrast, Western cultures often idealize slim and toned bodies. These things make sense because if you're in a area where people are typically slim and small, and that comes from malnourishment, and you see someone larger, more plump, you associate that size with a wealth status. Versus here in America, we've come to look at someone who is more plump and associate that with, in a lot of ways, a lack of discipline, a lack of self-control, a lack of priorities. And so these are just simple examples of cultural differences. So other things in cultures can be practices such as body modifications, which can play a role in shaping beauty standards. In some cultures, practices like neck elongation, lip stretching, and tattooing are considered markers of beauty and social status. These cultural variations highlight the diversity of beauty ideals and the importance of understanding attractiveness within a cultural context, right? So when it comes to practices, this is something where when we look at things like the infamous growing BBL, the Brazilian butt lift, this is something that culturally was growing in popularity for a time period. However, at another time period, more modern time, there has been a shift back to a desire for more natural looks. The practice of nowadays, men can literally make themselves taller. It involves a lot of bone breaking and it involves a lot of suffering. But a man can literally take himself from being 5'5" to being 5'11" to 6'2" with a surgery now. These are some of the practices that come into play, and also cultural variations can come in as far as the way that different cultures perceive body sizes. For example, in the Latin community, a man that has a more full belly, a thicker upper body, may not be seen as unattractive. In fact, that is a little bit more standard there versus in the Western world. Very much so, you will see westernized ideals for men to be more of a slim, fit, trim look where muscles may be toned, abdominals may be showing, pectorals may be more muscular in nature rather than fatty in nature. These show differences in physical appearance, physical desires from different cultures. Now, a Bible verse that says something about this is 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 3 through 4. And it says, "Your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight." So this makes it clear to us that these things that we look at and we look to take care of, these are things that are not meant to be of greatest importance. These are things that are accessories, but they are not definitional to your beauty as far as God is concerned. So you always want to be very cognizant of the difference of when you're doing something to make yourself more physically attractive, do that with the understanding that it's not defining your value for God's purposes. It may be influencing your perceived value for an attraction purposes. And as long as you keep in mind those differences, you can navigate it with more awareness. Now, the media also sets a lot of standards when it comes to attractiveness and idealizations with that. The media plays a significant role in shaping these attractive standards and influencing perceptions of attractiveness. Advertising, movies, television shows, and social media promote specific versions of attractiveness that can impact people's self-worth and body image. Shift back again to the idea for a man in Western world is typically that they will have a leaner, trimmer fit. We see people like BTS starting to blow up because of that younger, boyish look. We see thin people, thin men being idealized. See people like Justin Bieber, Chris Brown, Drake. In fact, there aren't too many ripped people. One person that could come to mind, Michael B. Jordan, is someone that is ripped. However, his physical stature is not at that of a bodybuilder, but it is that of a very fit and lean man who has six packs attached to that. Now, let's go ahead and look at the way that celebrities can influence people with flawless appearances, which set unrealistic expectations for attractiveness. Social media platforms can emphasize visual content, and that can only highlight even more the heavily edited images and filters that a lot of people aren't even aware of. And this can lead to a phenomenon that's known as appearance comparison, where individuals compare themselves to these idealized images and feel inadequate. You can go on social medias and find women and men that, but mainly women here on this specific point, that will use filters to make themselves appear either more light or dark, or remove the pimples from their face. And then when they go in the real world to talk to a doctor, they want their real life image to look like their social media image. And now they're getting surgeries in order to shift their appearance to look like their social media images. Here's a quote from Audrey Hepburn. It says, "The beauty of a woman is not in a facial mode, but the true beauty in a woman is reflected in her soul. It is the caring that she lovingly gives, the passion that she shows. The beauty of a woman grows with the passing years." This is something that is not determined by social media, the media in general, and it's not determined by any type of simple cultural standard. Most cultures appreciate an older woman who is wise, who is loving, kind, attentive. When we go to chapter 4 gets into a concept that is fairly simple, and that is the interplay of physical attractiveness with other factors. This can include attractiveness and personality, intelligence and physical attractiveness, and then social status and attractiveness. So when we look at attractiveness and personality, we know that physical attractiveness does not exist in isolation, as I stated previously. It often interacts with other traits such as personality. Attractive individuals who possess positive personality traits such as kindness, humor, especially, intelligence, huge, are often perceived as even more attractive. This is a phenomenon that is known as the beauty of good stereotype. If something is good, that makes it more beautiful. Conversely, individuals who are physically attractive but lack positive personality traits may be perceived as less attractive over time, not immediately. This highlights the importance of inner qualities in enhancing and sustaining physical attractiveness. The interplay between attractiveness and personality underscores the complexity of human attraction. So a person who is attractive but awful will be more attractive in the short term, and over time, that attraction will wane. People who are less physically attractive immediately, but have the ability to have a prolonged exposure to someone, may be able to become more attractive in a person's eyes based off of if they have the personality traits to fill in where the physical aspects do not fill in. Proverbs 31:25 says, "She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come." Here we see when it describes the ideal woman, she is clothed. To be clothed means she is covered in. It is something that she adorns herself with and puts on. She is clothed with strength and dignity. And everyone can respect someone who has a strength to their personality and a dignity. Dignity is probably one of the most attractive traits as far as a long-term perspective goes. Let's look at something like intelligence and physical attractiveness, right? This is something interesting. Everyone can think of someone that is incredibly smart, but not necessarily attractive in terms of physical stature, personality. So let's talk about that a bit. Intelligence is another factor that can influence perceptions of physical attractiveness. Studies have shown that individuals who are perceived as intelligent are often rated as more attractive. And this may be because intelligence is associated with resourcefulness, problem-solving abilities, and social competence, which are all very highly desired traits to have in a long-term partner. The relationship between attractiveness and intelligence is bidirectional. Attractive individuals are often perceived as more intelligent due to the halo effect that we mentioned, while intelligent individuals may be seen as more attractive because they possess qualities that are valued in social and romantic contexts. James chapter 1 verse 5 says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." This is important because we can see how intelligence can be vital for many things. Being able to have a higher intelligent perception, whether it's emotional, whether it's handyman, whether it is socially, a person who's able to have these attractive features can be perceived of higher value. And this will get into what our next area of discussion is, which is social status. And the brilliance of James chapter 1, verse 5 is that if you go to God for that wisdom and you seek to have that wisdom gleaned from his word, then you can put aside what may be the cultural relevant topics to be competent in, and you can find many items that are necessary for modern things, modern ability to excel in the Bible. So when it comes to social status and attractiveness, this is huge. We go back to the idea of the man who seems to be shooting way out of his league with a woman that is significantly more attractive. Many times this will come down to that man has set himself at a certain social status. This is because it can enhance physical attractiveness by signaling access to resources, power, and influence, all things that are incredibly important for a woman to know her man has access to. Individuals with high social status are often perceived as more attractive because they can provide stability, security, and opportunity. And this is particularly evident in the concept of status symbols like luxury items and prestigious affiliations, which can elevate an individual's attractiveness. Think the yacht club membership. Think what's being popularized right now, the Bugatti, right? So these are very attractive items that people will look at depending on what their values are. The connection between social status and attractiveness is evident in various social contexts, from dating and marriage to professional and social interactions. People often seek partners who can enhance their social standing and provide access to valuable resources. This is just something people do. Everyone wants to be around someone who's doing something, who has access to more, that can give them access to more. And if you don't have access to more, or the ability to give someone access to more, then your perceived attractiveness, social status-wise, is going down. Proverbs 22:1 says, "A good man is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold." This is talking about the man's what? His social status, his reputation. Protect your reputation to enhance your physical attractiveness, because when you can walk into some place and get positive responses from a multitude of people, that tells people, wow, this person makes an impact where he goes. And as discussed previously, something that can be a symbol or a status of attractiveness is a person's perceived value. Let's go ahead and shift to now chapter 5. And this is where we will get into physical attractiveness in romantic relationships. This will cover the initial attraction and physical appearance, long-term relationships and physical attractiveness, and physical attractiveness and sexual attraction. That's where a lot of people sit. Now, when it comes to physical attractiveness, we know that it plays a crucial role in initial attraction and the formation of romantic relationships. Studies on speed dating and online dating apps have shown that physical appearance is one of the most important factors in determining initial interest and attraction. And individuals are more likely to pursue potential partners who they find physically attractive. Just the way of the world, everyone loves other traits, but what gets the foot in the door is going to be that physical attraction. However, physical attractiveness is not the sole determinant of romantic interest. Other factors like personality, shared interests, and compatibility do also play roles in the development of romantic relationships. And while physical appearance may spark the attraction, it is often the deeper qualities that sustain longer term relationships. Song of Solomon 4:1 says, "How beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful. Your eyes behind your veil are doves." So we can see here that the physical attraction, even mentioned in the Bible, talks about how a person's beauty, their eyes in this case, sparked that initial interest. When it comes to long-term relationships and physical attractiveness, we can see that physical attractiveness continues to play a role, but its importance diminishes over time as other factors become more prominent. Studies have shown that while physical attractiveness is important in the early stages of relationships, factors such as emotional connection, trust, and compatibility become more significant in maintaining relationships satisfaction. Changes in physical appearance, such as aging or weight gain, impact relationship dynamics. However, couples who have a strong emotional bond and mutual respect are often able to navigate these changes and maintain a satisfying relationship. And the importance of maintaining attractiveness in long-term relationships highlights the need for ongoing effort and investment in both physical and emotional aspects of the relationship. We know this. Somebody, as I said, gains weight. Hey, I love you. All of these things have been growing positively. I've seen you've put on 15, 20 pounds. Let's do something to work on that. A Bible verse that speaks to this is 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4-7, which says, "Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud, and it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking, and it is not easily angered. And it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but it rejoices with the truth, and it always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres." So if you see physical aspects starting to diminish, be patient in the things being restored. Do not let things move away from hope. Do not give up on improving them. It will, if true love is there, it will work through it. When it comes to physical attractiveness and sexual attraction, this is the most closely linked to sexual attraction and desire. Studies have shown that individuals who are physically attractive are more likely to be perceived as sexually desirable. This is because physical traits such as facial symmetry, body shape, and physical fitness are often associated with reproductive fitness and genetic quality. The link between physical attractiveness and sexual satisfaction underscores the importance of maintaining physical appearance in romantic relationships, while sexual attraction is influenced by multiple factors, including emotional intimacy and compatibility. Physical attractiveness remains a key component. This is to say nothing short of physical attractiveness and keeping up with it in order to maintain emotional intimacy, compatibility, all these things. Keep it as much of a component as you can. Proverbs 5:18-19 says, "May your fountain be blessed, and may you rejoice in the wife of your youth. A loving doe, a graceful deer. May her breast satisfy you always. May you ever be intoxicated with her love." Look at those blessings for you to rejoice in the wife of your youth. Wow. You want, and the Bible even wants for you to be satisfied by her breast always. Let's go ahead and go on to now chapter 6 here. In this chapter, it covers physical attractiveness in romantic. No, I'm sorry. This right here covers the. So. We are looking for chapter 6. Here we go. The social impact of physical attractiveness. Now, physical attractiveness can significantly impact social interactions and dynamics. Attractive individuals are often perceived as more likable, sociable, and competent, which can enhance their social influence and leadership abilities. This is evident in various social contexts such as friendships, professional interactions, and social gatherings. Think about it as well. If the strange looking person who is perceived as less physically attractive approaches and talks to a girl, it can be seen as harassment. If an attractive guy does it, it can be seen as flattering. Now, studies have shown that attractive individuals are more likely to be approached. They receive social support and they are included in social networks. The advantages of physical attractiveness in social interactions highlight the broader social impact of attractiveness and its influence on individuals' social lives. If you're a person, you're going out to meet people, to network, making yourself as most physically attractive as possible, getting a haircut, getting your beard shaped, getting your clothes fitted well, maybe putting on a suit instead of jeans and a shirt. All of these things would make you more physically attractive, which would also enhance your social attractiveness as well. Now, Romans 12:10 tells us, "Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves." So this is making it clear that when we go and interact with each other, we are to love each other just above everything else. And this is the goal, absolutely. One way to love one another and to honor one another above ourselves, if we give ourselves the honor of making sure that we appear with our P's and Q's handled, making sure that we present ourselves well, and then we go and we meet people and they can handle themselves well, then we esteem them. We encourage them more. For people that maybe don't present themselves well, then we find a way to build them up and to gear them towards better ways of presenting themselves, because that is the most loving thing you can do, is to let someone know, hey, you have more potential. If you're interested in hearing something, I'd love to give you a suggestion of what you can do to improve something that can increase your social attractiveness. If a person is going to something like a social gathering of some sort, then certainly they want to be perceived as more attractive socially, or they want to be perceived as more attractive to network with. Now, when it comes to some of the other elements that are involved in attractiveness, we have things like discrimination and bias based on attractiveness. Despite the advantages that are associated with physical attractiveness, there is also evidence of discrimination and bias that's based on appearance. Attractive individuals may face jealousy, resentment, or unrealistic expectations from others. And conversely, individuals who do not conform to societal standards may experience discrimination, social types. Now, studies have biases in various contexts, such as hiring practices, legal proceedings, and educational settings. Addressing attractiveness-based bias requires promoting awareness into it. However, this is something that is always going to just naturally exist with people. James 2:1 says, "My brothers and sisters, believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ, must not show favoritism." So as much as it can be so easy to heap praise and positively acknowledge a person who's physically attractive, there can be no favoritism. This is something that is obvious, and it's a natural human proclivity to treat well those that are attractive over those that are seen as less attractive. So let's look at the psychological impact of physical attractiveness. The pressure to conform to societal standards of attraction can have significant psychological implications. Individuals who feel they don't meet the standards may experience low self-esteem, body dissatisfaction, and mental health issues. The pervasive influence of social media and social norms can exacerbate these feelings, and that can all lead to negative psychological outcomes. Now, it is important to promote more beauty essentials and standards for physical attractiveness. It is important to talk about encouraging self-acceptance and mental well-being in order to help develop a healthier relationship with their appearance. And from developing these self-acceptances and the desire to do better with their mental well-being, they can go from a place of just having this negative angst against their looks to caring about themselves, caring about their appearance. And now from a place of, okay, I care about myself. And because I care about myself, I'm going to look for something to improve to take myself to the next level. That is the perspective that people should take for becoming attractive, not becoming down on themselves and then sitting in that downness. A quote from trying to see how to say this, Thich Nhat Hanh says, "To be beautiful means to be yourself. You don't need to be accepted by others. You need to accept yourself." And this is true. You need to understand what God gives you to understand about yourself and accept about yourself, you need to truly accept that within yourself. And then you need to move forward from that as your frame instead of some type of insecurity being your frame. So let's go to our final chapter here. This will be chapter 7, which is balancing physical attractiveness with inner qualities. And this will cover the importance of inner beauty, developing a balanced perspective on attractiveness, and building self-worth beyond physical appearance. Now, when it comes to finding inner beauty, as we just went over, most of these metrics for attraction are very based on the culture, based on the world you live in. And it's only really within something like the Bible that you get an objective, non-physically outer beauty based standard to look at yourself with. Any other form that you do, you can promote yourself as beautiful, but people will always disagree with that depending on who you're around and what their values are. But if you have an inner beauty that you understand about yourself based on something like, for example, the Bible, that is not something anyone can argue with as long as you are being as inwardly beautiful as the Bible calls you to be. So the importance of inner beauty, while physical attractiveness is an important element of attraction, inner beauty is equally significant. And it encompasses things like kindness, empathy, integrity, and intelligence, which contribute to a person's overall attractiveness. And these qualities can enhance and sustain physical attractiveness and create a more holistic and enduring appeal. An example of people who exemplify inner and outer beauty highlight the importance of balancing physical appearance with inner qualities. Celebrating inner beauty promotes a more inclusive and positive perspective on attractiveness. 1 Peter 3:4 says, "Rather it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight." Love that verse. When it comes to developing a balanced perspective on attractiveness, it's important to encourage this balanced perspective, and it involves recognizing that interplay between physical appearance and inner qualities. This perspective emphasizes the importance of self-acceptance, self-love, and personal growth in enhancing overall attractiveness. As mentioned, start from a framework of understanding what is empirically good and loved and working forward from that frame of positivity. Strategies for developing a balanced perspective include promoting beauty standards for yourself that can foster self-confidence and encouraging individuals to cultivate qualities that contribute to their overall attractiveness. By embracing a holistic view of attractiveness, individuals can build their self-worth that extends beyond physical appearance. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." The renewing of your mind is what you must seek. When it comes to building self-worth beyond physical appearance, that involves focusing on personal development, achievements, time with God, and qualities that contribute to one's sense of identity and value, like getting to know who your true Heavenly Father is if you are someone who is seeking identity. Strategies for building self-worth include setting and achieving personal goals. If you're gonna say you're gonna do something, do that thing. Forget about failing other people. Make the first person that you don't fail be yourself. And developing skills and talents and fostering meaningful relationships. Hey, You get relationships that mean something to you, where yours means something to them. That's going to also boost your ability to walk with confidence and be more attractive. By cultivating qualities that contribute to overall attractiveness, individuals can develop a more resilient and positive self-image. And this holistic approach to attractiveness promotes mental well-being and a healthier relationship with one's appearance. Psalm 139:14 says, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Not I suck because my eyes are different, or my nose is too big, or my chin is too long, or I got a mark on my forehead that throws it off. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. So let's go ahead into the wrap up here, right? Physical attractiveness is a complex and multifaceted element of attraction, and it plays a significant role in human interactions and relationships. And while it's important to acknowledge the impact of physical appearance, it is equally important and vital to recognize that deeper qualities contribute to a person's overall attractiveness. And by understanding the complexities of physical attractiveness and its impact, we can create a more balanced perspective that celebrates both outer beauty and inner beauty, which is ultimately the goal that God has for you. Hey, man, this has been a long presentation, I know, but there's so much to say on this topic, and there's ways that you can go in and have whole podcasts based solely off of one of these chapters, and there were 7 of them. But I hope that this has touched the surface at the very least for you guys. And I thank you for following along on this 7 pillars of attractiveness and joining me for pillar 4, which is physical appearance. I pray that this video has been a blessing to you, that it has helped you in understanding the importance of physical attraction from all these different aspects, whether it's evolutionary, cultural, romantic, friendships. I hope it's been of value. I want to thank you for joining, and I have an interview tomorrow, so I'm excited to do that. I pray that I can see you on that show. I've been your host, Devontae Colonel. Have a good night, and I will see you next time on the Inspired Challenge podcast. Take care.